And we're live.
Yes, sir.
We are. Bobby will be a little bit late, but he will be in a little bit. We are currently joined by LF Audio. I'm going to try to pronounce the name, but I'm from the South, so let's mess it up. Maurice.
It's Marius.
Marius, see? I knew I was going to be wrong. I wasn't going to try it. I was like, I'll just say it wrong on purpose. But
it's an interesting name. What background are you, Marius?
So I was born in Romania, and whenever anybody asks about my name, I say if you ever watched the play or the movie Les Miserables, the protagonist in the movie, it's Marius. So that's the only reference I have for pop culture.
Okay, good stuff. Where are you out of? I don't know how we haven't crossed paths. I'm guessing California because it seems all my Cali boys seem to know you.
So I'm down in California. I live a little bit north of Disneyland, and I work a little bit south of Disneyland. So I'm right around that area. Fullerton, if anybody knows the area.
Yep.
I don't know anything about it.
It's down there. It's by Disneyland.
Yeah, I mean Disneyland's Anaheim area, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Orange County.
Orange County. Yeah, where all the perfect weather is all the time.
I enjoy it. We definitely have the sunshine tax, but it's something that I live with because I'm spoiled with this weather.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that was one thing about my trips to California so far. The weather is just always perfect.
Yeah,
very envious.
Yeah, that's why it's expensive to live there. That's why there's so many people. I can't complain. It was like 75 degrees today, so
it's pretty good.
Nice.
I'm in Vegas.
Vegas, nice.
So for the winter, it's mostly decent. We have some crappy weeks, but I mean, it's usually like 55, 60 degrees, which is pretty nice.
It's not bad at all, really.
No. Not for the winter time. I mean, not when we see our boys covered in snow over there.
Right. I'm like, there's no way.
So, Marius, why don't you tell us a little bit about like how you got into like making audio products? Have you always been into audio? Are you a bass head? Do you have a build? Like all the good stuff.
He does have a build. He has a pretty wild ass build, actually.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to date myself, but I think maybe the circles I hang around with, that's absolutely okay. I started my bass journey back in the early 2000s, like, many guys in high school. First thing I did when I got my first car was trying to figure out how to make it louder. And literally, like a lot of guys that got the bug, it just never went away. Throughout college, my builds got bigger and bigger and bigger. And my claim to fame, if you will, was I switched over to an electric vehicle back in about 2017. I switched over from gas, and it was this little electric Fiat 500. It's one of the first electric vehicles you could buy in the U.S. They only manufactured them for California, Oregon, and Washington, so the west coast of the U.S. So most people didn't even know they exist. It was a compliance car, so the government forced Fiat to basically have an electric option, and they took the 500 with the gas engine, and they dropped in a 400-volt battery pack and a 88-kilowatt motor, and they sold it for almost next to nothing. So I ended up picking up the car with like 15,000 miles almost new for $8,000 out the door. It was like I couldn't pass it up. I said, I'm going to give this a try. I'm not willing to try and go electric, for 30, 40K, whatever the cost was, but when something is this cheap, I'll give it a try for my daily driver.
Okay.
I fell in love with the car and I stuck with it. But the problem was, what am I going to do? I went from having, at the time, it was a Mercedes with W7s, two W7s in it. Had CR components. So it was a pretty reasonable, nice everyday build, and to go into a stock system that came with the Fiat. So I started out, I think, 2 weeks into owning the car. I promised myself I wouldn't touch it. I found myself with a 10-inch JL. That wasn't enough. I upgraded to 12 inches. So I took my W7s. I had 2 of them in the car. That wasn't enough. I went to 3 of them. I ended up blowing all 3 W7s in it. So then I went to 4 EMF band hammers. those lasted me a while, and I blew those eventually. I kept upping the power. I kept adding lithium banks to the car and just, bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Upgraded to 6 FI SP4 V2 Plus.
Okay.
That was a pretty decent build.
I ran those for a while too.
What happened with those was when I transitioned from the 4 to the 6, I had 3 12K amps in there. And I was carrying around hundreds of pounds of lithium, and I needed more box space, right? I was tuned too high.
All of this is in a Fiat 500?
Yes.
Is there a place where I can find some photos of this?
What?
Yeah, it's actually, if you go on TikTok or my Facebook, I'm Loud Fiat over social media. There's plenty of pictures and videos. I have like almost 800 videos at this point.
Wow.
So
okay, hold on. Before you keep going, it was 612 you went to, or 610, 615, 6 what?
612s.
Okay, and it was a band, like a flat wall bandpass.
Flat. It was flat wall. It was tuned a little bit high. I think we were hitting about 45 hertz, and I had 3 12Ks in there, and I was carrying it was 200 amp hours of lithium. So
what lithium were you running, like on Yinlongs or?
No, so at the time it was the Headways.
Okay, so they're pretty big cells too.
Look at this little car, bro.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the setup that you're looking at here. This is the 612 that I had in it. Okay. And I got tired of that battery, right? I said, okay, this is not going to work for me. So if you click on those PCBs right down there, I started basically looking into how can I upgrade this thing to leverage that 400 volt battery.
Look how tiny that is. Okay.
And so what I ended up doing was actually getting a high voltage amplifier. I don't know how much you guys know about those, but the high voltage amplifiers are literally nothing but the output section of an amplifier, and you have to feed it the high voltage rails into it. So I spent 6 months basically reverse engineering the car, talking to the electrical engineer at Fiat that designed the thing. And I spent 6 months coming up with a game plan of how am I going to tap into that high voltage bus so I could use 400 volts directly into an amplifier.
Does it say 112,000 RMS?
Well, that's a small one.
That's a small one.
This is a small HV amp, but yes, that's 112,000 watts RMS. You're stable down to quarter ohm. And this is Brazil, Dominican Republic. They run for those huge outdoor builds, right? So
that makes sense.
They're not really legal in the US. They don't sell them here because they wouldn't pass our certs and all that fun stuff. But of course, I was able to get one. And after 6 months of research, I went down to Chris's house. You guys probably know him down here. And, after work, I would go to his house. I would have my car up on, on the little lifters, and I'd be starting to tap into the HV module. And eventually I was able to get that 400 volts worth of power to the rear of the wall. And I started basically building custom circuits to safely control that 400 volts. So I started building voltage circuits for monitoring, amperage monitoring circuits, and everything was run off of Raspberry Pi. And its job was to basically sense everything at multiple kilohertz. And if anything ever went wrong, it would cut all the relays and shut everything off. So I ended up having to do a bunch
money without telling me you got money. Golly.
No, you're just smart. Knows how to do it.
No, I'm talking about the Z's.
Listen, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still on the 612s there. So I ended up basically leveraging that 400 volt battery that's in the car, right? It could put out a few hundred thousand.
You're using
watts.
the battery that's built into the car to run the car. Yes. That runs the car.
This car is 24 kilowatt hour battery, 400 volts. It could put out you could see 398 volts there, and that DC voltage is going directly into the amplifier. The amplifier was running my speakers, and right after I got this working, right, I found out that those subs aren't going to take the power I have. Like, I have too much power now, and my next goal is, what do I do from here? Like, I literally have 100,000 watts available, but I have a small car. So next up was upgrading to the DDZs. I went to the Zs, and I'm now able to push a lot more power than I have before, but I'm also tapped out. If you could bring up a picture of the latest build, what you'll see is right now, this was, I just ran it earlier this year. This way I'm modifying it again. but I'm running 2 of those amplifiers that are rated for 192,000 watts at 400 volts at quarter ohm. They have so much power, I'm forcing all of them to run at 2 ohms, and I'm barely at a quarter power on them. Like, there's so much power. Like, imagine you had a 12-volt car amplifier and your output section was this big. How much bigger is the actual amp itself to feed this? That's what we're looking at here.
Good
and
Lord.
This is about almost quadruple the voltage you'll find on the rails of a 12-volt amp, right? Your 400 volts DC. So this is equivalent to probably having 2 20-foot 12-volt amplifiers. But I don't have any of the inefficiencies of that 12-volt power stage as pure DC into them. And all they are is their 600-volt IGBTs switching directly into the voice coil. So my build right now, the latest changes I'm running on this is I actually cut the roof of the car. I don't know if I have anything on Instagram there. Probably just on TikTok. I don't use Instagram or Facebook much anymore. But I ended up cutting the roof of the car, and I'm actually extending the box on top of the roof because I need more box space to tune lower. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Would you just cut the inside skin, or are you actually like making the car taller?
I'm making the car taller, and probably more than likely I'm going to buy a second Fiat and extend it to 3 axles because I'm probably going to get bored of the roof build pretty quickly.
Well, you wilding out.
Okay, so yeah, you're not really, you're building this basically just for show, demo, for your fun, so you don't care about any of the rules or any whatever.
That's right. It's all purely fun for me at this point. Let me send you
send me some
quick
stuff.
link here.
I'm surprised those 612s wouldn't take as much power as the Z's. I mean, they're both 4-inch coils. I bet you have a lot more rise with the Z's because they're Neo, but that's surprising.
The problem was they were bottoming out physically, and I
they
hate
more suspension.
I hate if I could help it not to break stuff. So instead of breaking them, they're barely broken in at that point. So I just sold them, and I said, try and figure out what else I could do. I've been very happy with the Z's, but just like with anything, you want to always continue improving.
You said you sent a link?
Yeah, in the private chat on StreamYard.
See, that's what you meant earlier.
Yeah.
That's so wild, the way the high voltage stuff, Scott from Phi, the owner of Phi, he always talked about how he liked high voltage much better. And it's just that we're not caught up to it. We're just a 12-volt industry, so we just don't get it. But if you do it right, the high voltage is just the way to go.
I've been saying this since I did it back in 2019. I literally have 800 videos on high voltage.
If you guys saw my post,
and this is what I'm doing right now.
We plugged the port in the box here, so we gained all of this volume for the subwoofers. And then the port is being routed through the roof. That's right. We cut a hole at the back of the car and the front of the car. We're going to have the port down firing here in the front of the cabin. And of course, this is the doors that we're looking at redesigning. The 12-inch Sundown Neo Pro V4s, 8-inchers, and then 1 or 2 of the silk dome tweeters in here. I've yet to determine if I'm going to go, fancy fiberglass ergonomic feel or just plain, 3 layers worth of birchwood or something like that. So this is the louder Fiat, hopefully finished in a few months here.
So if anybody follows me on social media, I do a lot of stories, so I don't have that many posts here. But if you want to,
this centipede is a predator.
It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt.
And I have the amp at quarter gain at 2 ohms, and everything's limited. It's just way too much power, that's my build. That's kind of the story of how I got into car audio and how I'm always sort of trying to like push it up with my personal build.
So
these things are super nice.
Is it possibly going to be at the showdown with the booth?
That is exactly my goal. I'm trying to get it done so I could have it playing there for the show for everybody.
That's awesome.
I really do think, you could pick up a used Leaf or a Fiat for next to nothing. And if anybody is courageous enough to go high voltage, you'll never have to worry about carrying around lithium with you or any of that. You'll have a single amplifier. Everything else is all box space because you'll never need any more power than one single amp. So I'm thinking, given enough time, we're going to start to seeing others do this. I've been waiting, but I understand it's dangerous and not everybody wants your.
I've only seen one other person run high voltage.
Yeah, but it was done in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Like by utilizing the electric vehicles that are just going to keep coming more and more prevalent, you figure out a way to just sell the bus system and like the circuitry, and then that'll just make it a lot easier for the everyday 12-volt guy to just kind of put that in there, give them instructions how to tap into their, battery, and then you basically you're just running positive negatives, just like a normal amplifier for the most part, right?
Yeah, I mean, these would probably be, in order to do this, right, it'd probably be a show-only build. I don't know if you'll ever get the, NHTSA to approve a high-voltage build where you have, you're tapped into your bus or anything. I've spoken to a number of different guys that are, own large companies in the industry, and I pitched them the idea going back to 2019. And the concerns are valid across the board. Like, how do we do this safely? Now, I think the key is simple. We need to get the manufacturers to agree that this is what the protocol looks like to safely tap into the bus. So part of my research back in 2018, 2019 was to understand how do these high voltage buses, how are they safe, right? So what they have is something called the high voltage integration loop, or IL. And what they do is every single wire inside of the high voltage loop is shielded and points back to a controller that's always monitoring the possibility of a closed loop between the chassis and the battery pack. And if it ever detects any sort of resistance drop, it means that your cable is compromised in a crash or something failed. It will cut the contactors immediately, or it will blow the fuse on the battery, right? If you can provide that HVIL loop in a standard connector people can tie into, I can think of many usages, like high torque winches that are running at a few hundred volts, for off-road use, and all these other things that you can do. The problem is somebody needs to get the manufacturers to agree that this is our common integration mechanism. And if you tie into it and you extend the HVIL and you follow the protocols, for the most part, it's safe, right? And that's what I've done for my build. I have the shielding around my cables. They tie into the loop. So if anything fails in the amp, the stock computer that's responsible for monitoring that closed loop will actually cut the contactors off, and we're good to go. So what I've done, somebody else just needs to replicate in a standard fashion from the auto manufacturers, and I think we'd be good to go. I just don't know how long it'll take for us to get there. That's a big question.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be not on any manufacturer's plate as far as on the front line. So that could definitely take a while unless you know somebody. But
well, I mean, technically, because most cars, what they do is they have the high voltage pack and they have a standard connector. You can build a standard connector that allows you to extend it, that continues all that HVIL integration. You can build it. It's not that big of a deal. But the problem is, how do you do it to where you get the certifications and you go through all that testing and you say, hey, you follow the protocol, you're good to go. There's no concern.
Yeah, the certification part would definitely be where a lot of people struggle.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bobby.
Hi.
Well, to catch you up a little bit, our buddy Marius here, he's got a crazy build that
I'll get pictures back up.
You're in California. Maybe you've seen it. I don't know. I've never seen it. It's a
loud Fiat.
Yeah.
Loud Fiat.
Nobody knows me.
It's all tapped into the high voltage of the.
I've seen videos online. I thought that thing was overseas.
Nah, I'm here.
Where are you at?
I'm right by Disneyland in Anaheim.
Okay.
So, what's interesting is I'm the first guy that's done this that I'm aware of to any electric vehicle, and it's been sort of like this since 2019.
Bobby,
and
that
I
is a
developed
pair
yeah,
of 190,000 watt amps.
yeah, and you can look up the specs. I don't know if we'll get into it, but I've designed my own EV amps, and I'm actually working with an engineer right now where we want to bring it to market. High voltage amps that could do a lot more power, and using new technologies that have been invented because of all the EV revolution. So maybe we'll talk about that. But
Yeah, that is his input voltage into the amps.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't think you need to make amps that make a lot more power. I think 200,000 watts an amp is enough. Like nobody, I mean, Carlos could use a couple of those. He could get the 400 real quick. Yeah, I know because he needs more power. That's wild.
listen, if he ever wants to do a high voltage build, I'm happy to provide assistance and my knowledge here. If you want more power than you could ever use for any voice coil ever, this is the route you go.
His limiting factor right now is space. It's like, because we talked about it at the show, he needs more power. He's doing, I think he clamped 217,000 watts for that last burp.
Mhm.
And there's no more room for amps. The only other space he has is if he were to get like a cargo top and then do it up there. But then now he's ran out of wire or spots to tap into the battery for wire runs. So it's just become a run of space now. So if that's the way,
I
think
think
it's willing to do. I don't know, but it'd have to be. I don't know.
I had no
Good
other
question,
route. I had no other route. I needed more, and it was my daily driver. I actually drove it daily up until probably the pandemic started, and then I stopped, having to drive. But it was my daily with that high voltage builds, back and forth.
How does it do for your battery life? Does it?
I mean, technically, I'm not bumping, 100,000 watts all the time, so it's not a big deal. When you're cruising down the freeway, an efficient EV will use about 15 kilowatts, right? So if you're doing 50 kilowatt RMS, it's the equivalent of driving down the freeway. And nowadays, you could do 300 miles with an EV. You're talking about 60, 70 kilowatt batteries. So you've got hours of playtime at such a volume that you're going to melt your coil. So it's not an issue for modern EVs.
So like you could, if you were playing loud, you were like, I had 200 miles range, but I was rocking out. So I did 110. And then I needed to recharge. And you're like,
the amount of rocking out you need to do, though, I mean, the amount of power that is stored, it's hard to describe. Like, I will go at a show with my build, and I have to cool the coils in between runs. I'll spend all day, and I'll use maybe 20% of my battery. And this is an old EV that has a small battery. So that's where I'm at currently. So there's, it's really not an issue from my perspective, unless you've got a van or something, but then your battery is so much bigger. Like the Cybertruck now and the H2, those batteries are just ridiculous. You got so much stored power, it's not an issue.
One of my technicians has a Fiat just like that, an electric one. One of my box builders.
What's he think of it?
I don't know. I don't know if he loves it or not. He's a big giant dude. He's like 6'4", and he's kind of, he's not like jacked, but he's a big muscular dude. He's not fat, but he's a big man. He doesn't look like the guy that would be driving that car. He doesn't fit super well. He's like, it's not bad, but
So,
yeah. I'm 6'2", so I'm that song, riding a Fiat 6'2".
Yeah. So yes, you don't fit super well in it, but I guess you might have given yourself some more space, having the wall a little further back like it is, and so it looks like you might be okay in there.
Kicker did just do a video. Their live stream yesterday was about.
I reached out to them. I told them, hey, if you want me to talk about it, I've done it. Like, this is not whatever. I've been doing this for years, and they told me, hey, if you want to participate, be in the chat, ask questions. I'm like, nah. I'm here to offer knowledge if you want it. But
John wants to know what your degrees are in.
My degree, I've got a background in computer science. I've been a developer, started back when I was 8 years old, and I've done that my whole life. Right now, maybe I should preface this. Everything is my own, not my employer's. My day job is I work at Google as an engineering manager, and then for fun, I do this with a bunch of other stuff.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I did some math real quick, Bobby. if you're doing use 8,000 watts, play music, right? For 4 hours straight. I mean, just like a 4 hour straight burp at 8,000 watts, you'll use 32 kilowatts.
Mm-hmm. And again, these cars are now 60 kilowatt and up, right? When you're getting the big batteries like the H2. And honestly, you can't do that RMS on any setup for that extended period of time.
No, I mean, you would need, to do 8,000 watt continuous burp, you would need like 815s, and then just because it would just eat that.
Yeah. So Brad, I see you're talking about 800 volt. Yes. So I was mentioning I designed an amplifier, and I'm working with an engineer where we're actually redesigning it. High voltage SiCs, so the silicon carbide chips that we're playing with right now, they're designed to go up to 1700 volts safely, and it's actually what they use inside of the inverters to charge the cars and to drive the motors. I can't say too much because I've had issues now with folks just sort of copying a lot of my ideas.
Yeah, you don't got to say anything you don't want to say. Well, if you don't want to talk about it, just tell them. I ain't talking about it. No.
So 800 volts, yes, there's actually EVs at 1200 volts like race cars. And the higher the voltage, the more efficient the architecture becomes because you have less amperage, better cooling, etc. So what we're designing is really future-proof, and we want to offer amplifiers that will work safely up into 1200 volt territory. Like you could tie into that if you dare, and it'll work.
So Danny, they were talking about like the average person should not be touching the battery in their car. They just should not. I mean, we've seen what guys do with 12 volt batteries. All right, we've seen people blow those up. The average person should leave their EV battery alone.
Yeah, no, I would think the only way this would work is if, like he was saying before, when you have that access to that little tap, there has to be a system that just is easily to tap into that becomes a plug and play. And then this becomes like bus bars.
When you go and charge your car,
fucking bus bars, it's fucking 800 volts. Like
that's what his is. That's what it looks like though on yours. Can you pull up that other picture again, Drew, where it shows the back end?
So when you plug your car in to charge it at home, right?
Yeah.
Do you see anyone, fearing for their life when you plug in that charger? No, what happens is there's a communication protocol. Safety is established between the charger and the car. Safety checks are assured, and then the thing starts operating, right? We could have the same thing occur with these devices tapping into the battery, right? Where you have computers talking together, sensors on both sides, and they negotiate and they say, hey, everything's okay. And as soon as one of them says something's wrong, you could cut that connection instantaneously, just like you do for a charger. So from a technical perspective, it's doable. The problem is, how do you get folks to, car companies to actually want to do that?
Can you zoom in on it, Drew? I think you could, it'll let you if you like.
I mean, he doesn't have bus bars.
Here,
I mean,
I could zoom in with mine.
Yeah. On the right, those are little bus bars between the relays and
it's on your Facebook page or?
Yeah, I've got Facebook or I've got.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
right. Oh. Those posts with the wires coming off of them right there, if you touch those, you're dead, right?
Yeah, you know what? I got to find a photo for you. Everybody laughs, but I started going to shows, and believe it or not, people were touching these things as
that's the speaker outputs. Good God.
Those are the speaker outputs. Oh, I thought
power's right here.
You could die there too. Like your speaker outputs could fucking kill you on those amps.
Well, they're the same thing. That's speaker output.
DC max. I mean, it's 400 volts max on the speaker outputs.
Yeah.
Look, this is only an output section.
Yeah, that'll fucking kill you.
So
I mean, like if you ever been zapped by like a 10K, like you will get zapped.
So check.
Never been zapped on you. Thank God.
What's up? Got it.
Well, sooner or later, there's gonna be nothing but electric cars, so we gotta figure something out.
Listen, I've been trying to.
So we own a Bolt, right? That's what Allison drives, and I think I've told this story on the show before. But when there was the big scare of the Bolts, right? We had a fucking fire alarm in our house malfunction, and in the middle of the fucking night, our fire alarm, smoke alarm is all fire, like hell loud, and then blah, 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 lights flash and shit. And I immediately thought the fucking Bolt was on fire down in the fucking garage. So I in my mind, in the split second of that thing yelling fire at me, I ran my naked ass downstairs, out the garage, opened the garage door, and was gonna hook the van up and drag the fucking bolts out of the garage because it was in my fucking house. And I opened the garage door and I'm looking in the window of the car and I'm looking to see if something's smoking. Nothing is happening. The car is charged. It's not hot. The fans aren't
Fire alarm played you,
cooling.
bud.
Fire alarm. And and Allie's like standing in the door. And she's like, why do you have the door open? I was like, I was going to hook the van up to this motherfucker and drag this motherfucker down the driveway. And yeah, so anyway, that's my, when he was like, have you ever scared plugging your car in? I'm like, a little bit. So
I get these ignorant.
So, anyway, folks always laugh, like, how is that 60K watts or whatever? Again, when you look at this amplifier, and I have so many videos on this stuff, literally going back years and years, think of this as the output section of your 12 volt. However, instead of your output section running at 120 or 140 volts, it's running at 400 volts. So it's technically 2 to 3 times more efficient than your output section that you have right now, right? So when you watch this video, just keep that in mind, and you can see, how these amplifiers.
Ignorant people leaving these ignorant comments all the time, right? They have no idea what 400 volt DC high voltage amplifiers powered by an electric car lithium traction battery can do. They tell me, Joe, it's not possible. It's just not. I tell them, buddy, just look at my fat ass excursion and my 360 amp fuses I blow, and you tell me if the math ain't mathin'. Now scoot along and go troll another creator unless you're here to learn. If you are, I'm down to school you. I only have so many heartbeats left on this plane of existence, so don't waste mine because I'm not here to waste yours. I'm here to share with the world something unique and beautiful.
Yeah, look how much that stuff is doing. They are banging.
Great.
that was Chris, huh?
That was Chris, and he's right next to me.
Yeah.
He's one of my best buddies down here. I just saw him yesterday. I'll probably hit him up tomorrow. Amazing builder.
Yes, he is. Yeah, I like Chris. Good dude. Very
Yeah.
inspirational.
Very
Some of
strong.
the things that we work on around here, actually. So yeah, very cool.
That's awesome. And I think he's watching the show. So hey, Chris, if you are, and on my Facebook under Loud Fiat, I just posted a photo. I had to add this particular sign to it because folks at the shows, at the base meets, were walking up to these amps that were on and lit with the high voltage sign and touching them. So that sign that you see dangling right there, I had to add to the car.
That just makes them want to touch it more. That isn't helping.
They're like, nah, that ain't doing that shit. That you're sitting, and then what kind of numbers do you do in that car? Like, what do we?
So the best I've been able to do is 162. And right about there, I keep breaking windows. Something breaks. And then I lose the ability to contain it. So I think 162, 2, 4, something like that was the best that we got.
Dude, that's really loud on it, especially in a flat wall build. Like, it's painful. I'm sure that thing's hard to sit in.
Chill out, John.
Everybody makes fun of me because my build is too loud for me. But
I mean, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Let's see, what's he saying here? Oops, wrong question.
I mean, the worst thing the heat's really going to do is shorten the lifespan.
Yeah.
Unless it blows up.
Yeah, you never want to get it too hot, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of it.
I thought it said the Titans were good under the hood.
Some of them are. The ones that
I
have
think
the thicker case for better.
Right. They're designed to be under the hood. Use the one that says that it can go under the hood. If they
It's
say they can
basically
go under
just
the
a
hood,
heat
go ahead and
shield.
put it in.
It's just a heat shield,
Yeah.
a thicker one.
So, do you want to get into some of your products? Let's check out some of the stuff that you have. Do you have stuff available now, or are you about to launch some of your stuff?
Yeah, so what's interesting is you guys have seen that I've been doing a bunch of the circuitry for my build. And I think not too long ago, folks started asking, can I get some of that? Like, I'd love, some of those instruments. And I decided, hey, let me give it a try. Let me try and make a product and see if this really resonates with the community. The difference between what I sort of do and what you'll see out there is I'm all about data and precision given my background. I overanalyze data. I like dashboards. I like spreadsheets. And you've seen what I do to the amps. I take them apart. I upgrade them. I want to understand how they work, and I want to make them better, right? That's sort of what drives me. So I wanted to put together the first product that I thought would actually provide value. One of the biggest issues I had, especially as I went high voltage, was there was no voltmeter that would give me the instantaneous data that I needed with the accuracy that I wanted. In a build like mine, I need data and I need to be able to review it. I need to capture it and then go back to a computer and sit down and analyze it. And that's what my Raspberry Pi was all about, right? I had this whole control center. I had multiple Hall effect sensors. I had relay controllers, and I had all this data available to me. It was touchscreen. It would operate the system. And then at the end of the day, I could go back and analyze it. So I wanted to figure out how do I start bringing that to market for others to experience and enjoy that are into this level of detail, right? There's nothing out there that provides that currently. I think there's one that sort of attempted to do that, but I really didn't even know anybody that was using it. I'm not going to name other brands. So I figured, let me put together one single device and see how folks resonate, whether or not they appreciate the additional data that's available with something of this caliber. Very high precision ADCs built in, really high frequency, a lot of, over the top, if you will, for most builds. And that's how I started a few months ago. It's not really been that long into my journey since I released this. I've already made, I think, 6 over-the-air firmware upgrades to it. And that's because a lot of folks have resonated, right? They bought it and they're like, hey, this is awesome. Can you make it do this and this and that? So when I designed it, I thought ahead and I had sort of a product strategy. And I said, if my products resonate with customers, here's my vision. I'm going to build a wireless mesh-based network where all of my devices will talk together. They're updatable over the air. They log the data and they have lab grade precision, right? The THD on anything I do with audio is going to be on the floor, and the accuracy of anything I do with voltage or wattage metering or anything will be lab grade. It's too much for the average guy. I agree. However, for those that are obsessed with data and obsessed with optimization and try and figure out how they're going to get the last millivolt or last dB out of their car, this is who I'm building these for. So ultimately, I realized that, look, there are people out there that are willing to pay the cost that it costs to manufacture this stuff, right? This is using better components than you normally find in car audio because you need to achieve, a different level of performance. But there are folks that really love these. So now I've started to really share my product vision with folks and really shown, here's the ideas I have and what I'm putting together and how everything is meant to integrate together in the long run. So if you buy a voltmeter from me, or you buy, temperature sensor from me, or you buy the amplifier meter from me, all of them communicate wirelessly together. They're all going to talk to a centralized screen that can log the data, upload the data for offline processing. In fact, right here in my hand, I have what you're looking at right now, which is the wireless controller, right? So it allows you to not only control volume, it's basically a wireless knob. It gives you, a fast Fourier transform of your music. So what frequency you're playing, it tells you the temperature of your amplifier. It tells you your voltage, high accuracy voltage in the palm of your hand. And the more products you buy, the more it will be integrated into this. So you can walk away from your car and look at your, temperature monitors and be like, cool, my voice skills are good. I'm just going to hang out, let demo all day long at the show until I need to either turn it down, or the system has multiple cores. I'm running 4 cores in the system. So it can actually monitor the voltage and monitor the temperature monitoring and everything for you, and either limit the volume of your build or turn it off altogether if it's getting dangerous. Like if you're starting to cook your coils or you're starting to really dip in your voltage, it could actually turn your amps off and say, hey, you need to take a break. This is a safety mechanism.
So Marius, a really cool application for this, I imagine, maybe there's like an app that connects to a computer or a tablet, and maybe you're monitoring all of these things real time. But also, I imagine, like we're building our max and test bench thing. So it'll have a monitor, it'll have a computer, it has amps and speakers and all kinds of stuff on it, power supply, battery, and I can troubleshoot people's audio systems. I can tune them. I can show them, in their own vehicle, an audio system put together in their car. And if I had all this monitoring product, one, in their vehicle, or two, on all of my products on my test cart, this would be a really great application for this. You know, I could show a customer, you know, like Jim, right? And I'm like, Jim, look what you're doing. Like we can make red lights start flashing in his build like a shift light. Like, hey.
Yeah.
So-
Doing the thing,
so
Bill.
that's
Jim.
What do you got there in your hand again? So now that
So
we're big,
I have-
we can see what you got.
Two things. So one is everything is wireless. Everything has an app. Bluetooth, iOS, iPad. In fact, if you have a high-end Android head unit, I've got a customer, Daniel from Glow Industries. Thank you, Daniel. He actually has it running on his head unit connected to the app. So that's number one. Number two, this is a product I'm releasing, and this is a touchscreen. It's a little 5-inch touchscreen that goes onto your dash, and all of these sensors will stream data to your touchscreen, and you can save it to the SD card. And when you get home, or via an access point, if you turn the hotspot onto your phone, it could upload this to the cloud. Now, in your use case, the customer could upload their data. They could give you access to it via an online portal, and you could see how their build did any sensor at any time, or on your test bench, you can look at the data when you're testing something.
Damn. So if Jim's build is having an issue, he's like, hey man, something's not right. You could data log it and then look at it. Just like,
Be like, I figured it out again, Jim. It appears that you
there's
turned
a
the
short between the
volume
steering wheel
knob
and the driver's seat.
too far again. Again.
Now, a few additional things, right? I have thought about offering, for a small subscription fee, what my cost would be, the ability to build in 4G into this thing. That way it's communicating via 4G. You don't need a hotspot, and it's always uploading data that you can review, right? So that's number one that I'm still considering. And the second thing I want to call out, I see that Nello from Nello Media is on, Nello Williams. I'm actually collaborating with him very closely. He's going to be building the all of the temperature sensors. They're already proven. You've already seen it in his kits. He and I have partnered up, and we're going to bring all of the temperature monitoring hub that you've seen on the website and everything together as a partnership. He's going to fully own the R&D of the sensors. So he's going to build those from the ground up. He's going to make sure that we can attach them to any subwoofer basket, and I'll be taking care of the rest of the ecosystem there. So I'm very excited about that because, again, he has a proven product, proven experience, and I think together, we're going to make it even better for the whole market. So I want to shout him out because I see him in the chat here.
Yeah, someone said that they say this much data could put us amplifier guys out of business. Nah,
So
you're good, bud.
Before you say that, I have talked to at least 2 manufacturers that would love to have all this built into their amps. Think about if your amplifier can automatically give you real-time wattage, efficiency, and everything, and what that means for the safety mechanisms inside of the amp. Now, that's not good for business because if your amp never blows up and you never have return customers, it's very, very hard to survive. But that is something that potentially long-term you might end up seeing inside of amplifiers where all this is native. And if you buy an amplifier that's LF audio,
what side of the market you're going after, like, because I guarantee you, JL Kicker, they don't want their amps to blow up. They'd rather you just buy more amps later.
Yeah. Now
Right.
I see Mark is talking about Bluetooth. It's not Bluetooth. It's a 2.4 gigahertz mesh protocol. It is not Bluetooth. It's over the same frequency spectrum, and it's maximum transmission power allowed under FCC rules. So everything I'm doing is FCC legal and CE legal and all that. However, I'm using maximum transmit and receive power on all the devices over the frequency band that's allowed, but it's not Bluetooth. It's not Bluetooth low energy. It's not none of those products that you've experienced before where you have limited range. I have
Is
a video.
is it a spread spectrum thing? So there's not any interference if some guys run an RC car or two guys have this similar setups parked right next to each other?
It does frequency hopping. It does renegotiation, and it's a mesh. So if one device is closer to another than another, it'll actually hop through the multiple devices. So it's a true mesh. That way, if you have a car with a lot of interference EMI in it, it'll actually negotiate.
Oh, cool. Okay, so
Do you
So
have?
how about the party mode thing for all of our builds at the showdown? Everybody link up and we can play. Like, imagine 20 160 vehicles playing the same shit at the same time. Just, oh my god,
Now,
it'd be wild.
I mean, would there be a way for everybody to link up to some sort of like hub, like
Yeah.
we
So
all get the
I
same source through Bluetooth or something?
I want to shout out Hunter Martin. I spoke to him. I think it was a few months back. He and I were talking about the same idea. A while back, I made a prototype, and Chris has seen it. He's actually the only person to have seen it. I made a prototype wireless transmitter and receiver of data using a different protocol, which is supposed to basically be lossless, that allows you to send music. The idea behind that product was, instead of running RCAs from your head unit to the amplifiers, you have these two devices, and now you don't have to run any cables across your build, and you don't have to worry about the MI that comes into your RCA wires as you're running it through the car. That product, the idea would be, because it's using the same mesh technology here, would allow you to link up to your neighbor, because now you're sharing the same mesh, and they would then link up to their neighbor, and you could technically build a super wide mesh in a parking lot or at a show, and now all of you could synchronize your data packets, and you could play music at the same exact time in parallel. So that's a product that I have thought about. I have, Hunter Martin's also, from what I understand, a few months ago was looking into it as well. He was interested in that. So I think, given enough time, I might bring that to market. Again, it depends how the market resonates with everything I'm bringing out, right? If people like it and they're like, this is worth the investment, I see the vision and it's actually providing me value, I'm going to continue building stuff.
It would definitely have a market, like for the mass, like on our side, maybe not so much, but in the marine world, there's a huge market for that in the marine world. Boats like to tie up, and if they could all play the same song, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, and I've got John here in the chat. He knows exactly what's up. He reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, can I get these for boats? Like, this would make sense." So absolutely, we're definitely exploring that, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
And we've done a thing. Bobby's been a part of it. Drew has as well at SEMA for the last 3 years, and we've always talked about trying to figure out a way for all of us to play the same songs.
Any event it would be worth doing.
Yeah, it just would be really cool on all kinds of different levels, but we can never really figure out exactly what to do. Everybody said use the wet sounds link or whatever, and I think you could link up to 4 things, but I don't know. We never really got too deep into it, but we've always talked about doing it. So there's at least one application I know we would be interested in one for that.
Yeah, I mean, from a technical perspective, it's doable. It's really about, is there enough interest to pursue the investment in bringing something like that to market? Right now, I'm trying to find a video that shows what the range of this wireless unit is that I think you guys would enjoy. Let's see here.
Did you ever, by chance, see the B2 Bourbon?
It sounds familiar. I'm sure I have. I'm sure I've run across it.
I don't know if you ever saw the alternator control board thing that was in the back.
I don't think
Bobby knows it better than I do. It controlled what exactly?
7 alternators, and it would run 3 or 4 of them at a time, depending on what, like if you had it in 3 mode or 4 mode, and it would track the temperature. And if it started getting hot, it would shut one down and turn and check to see if the next one was cool enough, and it would cycle through and track the temperature and make sure that they're working correctly. And it had it was a pretty interesting system that would control it, because it couldn't turn all 7 alternators at once, so it would run on like 4 typically, and it would figure out if the temperature, and if it was too hot, it would shut that one down. It would check the next one, and if that one was still too hot, it'd go on to the next one, and on and until it would find one that was at the right temp, and it would run just those ones that were within operating range.
Very nice.
Yeah. So if you were also had some sort of option like that goes along with your mesh, your whole package, that was a upgrade or another sensor or something, because we all run a lot of alternators, at least something, maybe not to that extent that just switches them on and off, but just to monitor them with their heat,
I
you'll
mean,
get all the data from the alts.
if you're tracking temperature of anything, you might as well track the temperature of anything. Everything that has the potential to get hot. Voice coils, amps, alternators. I mean, shit. What else?
So that's kind of the the way I approach something is, once I design a product and now it's really modular component I can reuse. So once I was able to design a power supply section that was clean enough in my little voltmeter, now I could reuse that for my next product, right? And as I'm going along building these products, it becomes that much easier to continue, building a new product that's targeted for a specific use case. So Nell's right? You're able now to take everything you've built, everything you've learned, and everything that you've proven and say, cool, now this specific application is we're going to combine a few of these sensors that are already working really well in these devices, and we're going to reconfigure them for this particular use case. And in this case would be monitoring the alternator, being able to drive the alternator, controlling the voltage, and then a few other things. And now you have this, Wi-Fi protocol that you've already developed, and it's plug and play. Now you have a sensor that's built specifically for that use case and can, participate in sort of the ecosystem. So the rinse and repeat thing works really well here.
Can you show us the knob again? Because we were all a little small. It was hard to, but I know you had one.
Absolutely. In fact, what I could do is I'll turn the little test bench amplifier I have on.
Perfect.
And you guys can see I'm playing music from the iPad right now. And that's my test bench, basically the voltage. And that's a fast Fourier transform. Again, I have really sensitive 24-bit ADC chips on here. It's constantly sampling the signal going through the unit. And all I have to do is turn it. And actually, let me turn on
Sick.
I got to turn on the amplifier. It's not always on.
No, that's like the story of my life right there, Marius. I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of us.
I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear it.
So I have a bunch of videos on how quick this thing is, and I'll show you it actually even goes to sleep. This unit, I've tested it, it'll run for weeks. Like, you don't need to charge it for weeks because it goes into super low power mode. I'll show you what that looks like. And then as soon as you turn the knob, within 100 milliseconds, it's back up and running, renegotiated to the mesh, and it's ready to send and receive data. So this one is actually coming out. I was hoping to have it out by end of year. That might still be doable. If not, it'll definitely be in Q1. I have a ton of pre-orders, so I'm excited to get those out, but it needs to be perfect before I shoot it out to everybody.
Does it have the ability to control multiple zones? So like your mids and highs all out from one knob, like you could just click it or like move from one to the other.
So if you have multiple base units, it can. However, I'm working on a version with 2 physical knobs, concentric knobs, so you can have 2 different zones that you can control. Besides, yes, the idea is you can buy as many different base stations as you need to control as many amplifiers or zones in parallel. So if you only want to do a 2-channel for your sub amp, you get the default. If not, because the way the software works and because you actually have a mesh between all the devices, it's fully configurable. So you can see just how quickly I'm going to turn it, and right away it's connected, and I'm changing the volume right away.
Okay.
So that's on the website right now. It's
like I personally run 3 zones. I mean, because I have stuff on the roof, and then I got the doors, and then I got the base. So I have a little box that has 3 knobs in it. So I would need basically what I would need. I would need 3 of those in essence, or 3 of those knobs, or are you going to possibly have some sort of modular thing where people could just add more knobs?
Bobby, you talked about setting up your max test bench. That was what kind of got me and him talking. Was saw my test bench set up on TikTok, and we were he sent me the voltmeter that I showed last week. And as soon as I saw everything he could do, like including the upcoming products he's doing, I'm like, that's perfect. I take that, put it on test bench, perfect.
Right.
Because it'll log everything.
So my mind is, I'm like, okay, so when we test our subwoofers, to failure, which I've only done that on our Relentless 8 version 2. I set it up and had 1,000 watts running to it for 24 hours, but I didn't have any monitoring. I just like came back in the morning. It was still playing. I was like 3 hours left. It's still chooching. I mean, it warmed up the fucking whole room a little bit. And the carbon fiber cone was blazing hot. But that thing was just playing. And I was like, sick.
But you didn't have any like a whole like 24 hours of log data.
No, I didn't. But imagine, and I'm like, okay, so we watched the coil come up to temperature. And oh, look at that, and then like watched the ambient temperature of the room was coming up, and that's why I got more heat in it. And then you know what I mean? Oh, look, it got real late at night, and the room cooled down, and I see the temperature of the sub coming back down, and here's what everything was doing. This is how the amplifier was responding to that happening, and we're looking at how much power the whole entire time, because we have to monitor the amplifier as well, because that thing's going to make a change when it starts getting hot. But then imagine also testing an amplifier. Like when you test an amplifier to failure, like I did with my 5700, I beat it until it died on purpose. I'm going to blow this up on your dyno, Steve. And I beat on it and just kept going and half ohm and pretty soon it went to protect. And then I'd like, wait a moment. And then finally, and it like did a burp and then ran a cycle. It was like, wow, that was cool. And then the next time it was all and snap. And the power wires were hot as shit. And the heat sink was blazing hot. And I kept on being weirded out by the power wires. I'm all, dual inputs is not enough for a 6K if you're beating on it really bad. That's why we went to the triple inputs on our amp. And a couple other companies running that same 6K board also switched to triple inputs. But imagine if you did all of that test and you had all of those things being monitored, maybe points inside the amplifier, Marius, right? You're tracking all of the shit that's happening. Maybe we have that thing set up in a way, and we got a camera looking at it from the bottom, and we can like look at where things melted and popped and where the smoke came from, and all of these things that could be done when we're torture testing subwoofers and amplifiers, mids, whatever the fuck we're testing to death, right? We go, okay, here's this amplifier that's designed for a boat and it's water resistant, and let's see how humid this motherfucker can get in some sweaty box, and you're monitoring all of that shit and see the failure rate. So anyway, this is where this is taking me based on all the stuff he's talking about.
So let me show you what, 1 second. Check out this particular product here. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the actual infrared sensors themselves. You could go to the EM Audio website to see Nello's kit for that. But this is something that we're looking at bringing to market jointly. It's a temperature hub that allows you to plug in up to 8 different temperature sensors into it. So now imagine you have these sensors plugged in, 8 of them, and you could point them, because you're infrared, you could point them at whatever parts you want. You could point them at the driver section, at the coils, at the wires, what have you, right? And all of that data is being streamed to that little touch screen, and it's logging it to an SD card and uploading it via Wi-Fi to either a cloud blob store somewhere, or our own SaaS setup that we're gonna have with dashboards and everything. And you just let it run, right? It could tell you, here's the data, and you can see that graph data of every single sensor over a period of time, and you could analyze it and everything else. So
with that one, you would also be able to, let's say you had 4 subs and 2 alternators. Could you wire 2 of those sensors to your alts? Because like Melon was saying,
technically, if we build the right mount, yes, you can. So what we've done is we've done some math on what's the maximum distance that we can support for these sensors, how far can we take them and whatnot. And we're pretty comfortable that even if you have a big car, we could run the appropriate length of wire all the way from the back to the front and have it work pretty well. So technically, as long as we design and we build the mounts, you could put them anywhere and have them focus on whatever you want to measure the temperature of.
Those are awesome. All this stuff's awesome.
36 of them for your build, right, Steve? Just one on every single coil.
So the reason why it is wireless and mesh is you do have guys that are absolutely crazy with this stuff. And you might need one, you might need 36, right? So that's a benefit of having a wireless mesh where you can support as many as you need. Thank you, Daniel. Again, I appreciate you, everything you've done, with your videos and running it on your head unit. It's been super cool. So I want to back up just a little bit. You were asking the question, what if I want to control multiple channels or have multiple amplifiers? Right now, the solution is this is what the unit looks like. So the knob itself connects to this unit, and unfortunately, it's plugged in, so I can't show you the one that's operational. You have 2 RCAs in, 2 RCAs out, and you have some additional control pins there where you could turn off your amplifier under voltage, or over temperature comes in with the temperature sensor built in. You can run as many of these in parallel as you want and control them from a single knob. You could technically flip between one to the other, but the limiting factor right now for this particular design is you have one physical knob. My second design has the concentric knob, so you have one here and then one on top you can rotate. So that'll be the option where it'll make that a little bit easier. But it's still, unless I start doing knobs in parallel side by side, you're still limited to about 2 with that solution.
Well, what if I'm not an engineer, but it's just suggesting this. If you made the knob or a button on the knob that just went through sources or went through whatever, so that it's technically still have one knob, but you could have as many sources as you want or as many zones as you want. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4.
So it will do that as is if you're okay with that. Now, again, I recognize not everybody's okay with that and they want the fine granular control multiple knobs. That's the only drawback right now of the current design. You'll be able to program it and flip through it. And I know somebody asked, can you actually relay the data of multiple knobs? Any sensor you have within the car, if you wanted to display the HPVM voltmeter here instead of the built-in unit, you can't. Because it's a mesh and the data is going everywhere, you could display any of the data points here or on the touch screen display. So once you have your mesh integrated, you choose what you want to display where.
Cool.
That's crazy, dude.
I feel like a salesman, like I'm on QVC right now.
No,
you can do this and that.
Is there any thought of maybe making everything that's on that screen is also on your touch screen? Basically, if you were to just have the touch screen and then you made the knob, like for somebody like me that wants multiple knobs, obviously the unit would be big if it had all that in one. But if you have the screen with just small knobs, like basically like the kicker unit I have, it's got a brain and then it has the knobs are separate and they're all just attached with phone cords. But with yours, it would work wirelessly. So the knobs are very small and they're.
Are you suggesting this is your knob with the little encoders on the top?
It would almost be like you have that one little brain thing.
Yeah.
And then it would also you'd have the screen. And then it just the knobs would just kind of be separate from the screen so that it wouldn't.
Steve wants like one of those games. Remember the Bop It game, and it had the little coil thing on the side.
So,
he wants that.
No.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But imagine like it was almost resemble a.
I can show you the kicker one.
Xbox or PlayStation controller, and it had some knobs on it and a screen in the middle. Or almost like a fucking RC car controller, like an airplane one that has the screen on it, and you have. I mean, like we're talking nerds that want to fuck with shit. So give them a bunch of lights and switches and knobbies and shit.
You guys are brilliant. Absolutely, we can absolutely add to it. I love the idea.
Yeah, I just mean, you know what I mean.
Basically, like what I'm talking about is this is like your little unit, and then if somebody wanted a bunch of control, like you need 4 knobs, like if somebody wants control of each door, maybe the mids, the high, whatever, then you would just have your one screen that has all the data, and then you just have separate knobs, and you could just buy as many little knobs as you want, and they just talk to that screen.
Well, with what he has existing, we could just 3D print a bitchin' little thing that those little guys snap into, and you could put different data on every one of those little screens. So you could have your fucking pan flute fucking looking thing with 14 knobs and have all, you're like, that's the temp of that sub, and that's the temp of that sub, and like, it just you can have the whole thing,
DJ board.
Look like a fucking bouquet of knobs with data and
So, okay, I promised you the video of the distance test. I gotta find that. I gotta send you that. I want to talk about, what the unit is all about beyond the fact that you can do voltage, attenuation, right, under your RCA voltage. A lot of my time has really gone into trying to get the lowest THD possible, which I know it sounds like, Drew, you kind of know how difficult that is based on working with some doing mixed signal circuitry, right? Where you have a very noisy digital section and you're trying to get clean analog on the other side and doing that on the board. In fact, when I got my quant analyzer, right, even doing that end to end wasn't clean enough. I was trying to figure out what was the issue. And it's so sensitive. It was the EMI from one of my devices, one of my plug-in wall transformers, and I had to move that further away from it. So getting low THD, it's so difficult on the PCB design. It's so sensitive. So a lot of my time has gone into that. I've had so many iterations of this board, and I put on social media, this is what I'm trying to get perfect before I release this to everybody. I want you to be able to run this in an SQ build, a high-end build where guys are spending, ridiculous amounts of money, and they do not want this to interfere with it. So when you're getting this, it may be in your fart machine like mine, right? I call mine a fart machine. Basically, it's so loud I can't hear anything but just the bass, or on your SQ build. And this should be plug and play, and it should be good to go. And you don't have to worry about that. I know there are other knobs out there, especially wireless knobs, that do nothing but distort your signal. I take it seriously, and that's why I'm posting, all of my testing and my results of my unit. So everybody's comfortable that I'm taking my time and I'm doing what needs to be done to have a product that you could trust is, engineered well.
Hell yeah, dude.
I think they're engineered way more than most of the stuff that we get our hands on. So this is freaking awesome. They have like a real Google engineer that loves our hobby doing stuff.
Every time you bring it up, I gotta say it's me, not my employer.
Yeah. But I mean, like that level of, your experience in what you're doing, and then it's obviously it's coming into the products you're making. So it's awesome. It's just going to keep pushing our stuff forward. So I'm excited.
Thank you. And I see a question. Can the HPVM be broadcast on a larger screen? Jason is asking that question. Currently, you can. There's an iOS app and an Android app. So if you have a tablet, it's ready to go now. The next screen that's coming up is called the WDD, or the wireless data display. And the idea is that any sensor you buy from LF Audio, because it is part of the wireless mesh, you can customize via the touchscreen functionality. I have temperature and voltage right now. You could click on it and say, I want to display this HPVM, call it amplifier 1. I want to display the second HPVM, call it alternator 1. And you basically build a customized display of all the sensors that you have running, and you could show whatever data you'd like to see on there, as long as it's part of the mesh.
Imagine you had a build that had like a big screen in the back and it's just got data running. Like it almost looked like the day traders, and they got their screens and they got all the different shit going and squigglies and spikes.
Yeah.
And like it looks like mission control, and you like somebody's like, dude, something sounds fucked up. And you just walk around the back and you're like, nah, man, it's good, bro. Like I don't get it. Are there any red screens flashing in the back? We're fine.
Drew was actually showing the photos of the early build when I first started going out, and that's basically what I had with the Raspberry Pi there. It was a screen with all the data customizable, and you could choose what you wanted. So that's what inspired me for my product. Basically, I said, look, that's what I'm using for myself at the time, and I found it useful. Clearly somebody out there might be interested in this as well. So that's what motivated me to create the product roadmap I have. And again, that would be on Instagram.
Yeah. You go check out his Instagram or TikTok. There's a whole bunch of information there.
Very cool. So no, I'm not on shrooms today. Not at all. Not right this moment. I mean, I'm happy to be, but I am not currently. But yeah, maybe another time. The homie keeps dropping them off, and I'm always scared. Like Casey's a wild dude, so I'm scared to eat Casey's shrooms. Scary.
What's
Needs
the
somebody to
definitive release date? Mr. Nichols is asking.
Definitive.
Oh, for which particular product? If we're talking about the wireless volume controller, I am getting my next prototype from the factory probably early next week. If it meets my standards of 0.001 THD across the entire frequency spectrum, and I get no digital noise, I am going to be mass producing it, and it should be shipping out either by end of year or within January to everybody that pre-ordered it. If unfortunately,
001 is so low.
And this is what, it's hard to put in a website. I am using some of the best ICs I could find, not only for volume attenuation, but super high PSSR LDOs on the analog circuitry. I have dedicated analog and digital voltage buses on the unit. So I'm doubling up on everything to minimize noise. So everything I'm doing from an engineering perspective is to try to achieve quality. That's why it's not cheap, right? Unfortunately, these parts that I'm sourcing, right, because they're the best you could get within their category, are not going to be cheap. But the upside is that you could drop it into a high quality build and not be concerned about, affecting your audio in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully end of year. If not, it'll definitely be in Q1. It's really based at the end of the day on, does it meet my requirements, right? Did that final PCB achieve the performance I wanted to? If it did, we're good to go. If not, it's going to likely be another 2 weeks turnaround time for the factory to build me the next iteration until I land on what I feel is a product that's worthy of pushing out there. One thing I've learned is once I push this out there into the world, I can't take it back. It is what it is. So,
do you have dealers?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So I have an exclusive distributor, and I am taking the route of building a dealer network. Instead of doing the race to the bottom thing online, I want to build a brand that scales long term and has enough margin to actually continue reinvesting and continuing to build on the vision. So I'm taking the much slower route. It's going to be, I think, slower growth this way, but I think long term it's a right strategy. So we already have about 21 dealers in the network.
Okay. I would love to be set up as a dealer for your product, and I have a lot of customers. My primary customer base is, right along with this kind of stuff. I'd be like, I want you to put this product in your build, and it's expensive and fun. And they go,
Jim,
fun?
Thank
Sign
you.
me up.
Yeah, expensive. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Jim's gonna want 10 of them.
He might. He's gonna be like, do I really need to track all that shit? And I'll be like, yes. And he'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, do that shit. He'll be like, what else does he make? Should I also get that? I'll be like, yes, of course you should. Buy it all. We're gonna get it all, Jim. I love you.
One of everything. Need one for my boat. He's gonna need one for his boat.
Oh, when are we gonna ship the boat here?
Yeah. Okay.
You got a big boat. And I was like, do you guys tube and like wakeboard and stuff? And he's like, no, not behind that boat. And he like shows me a picture, and it's like massive, giant. And I'm like, you tow that thing around town behind that truck? And he's like, yeah, that's big. You plop that big sucker in the water, and they just haul ass across one of the Great Lakes. And then they like turn around and like come back at 100 and something miles an hour. Anyway, but it has a big badass sound system in it. I guess they went with all of the Rockford stuff, and he's like, it's pretty good. I'm like, okay.
Get your checkbook out, John. You want to be the sole marine dealer. Just better have a bunch of zeros behind that check.
But yeah, I would like to. So Marius, if you could send me some information, that'd be great, and we'll get that going. I want to get some of these goodies. I'm getting text messages from multiple people that are like, "Are you getting that? Can I order that?" So like, it's happening. So
awesome. Yeah, would love to. We'll hook up after the show.
Fuck yes. Yeah, and anybody watching, if you guys want to see his products in action and you want to get a demo of the Fiat, I think there's the products in action I think for sure at the showdown. The Fiat, I think he's still working on, possibly going to be there at the same time. But I have faith that it's going to happen.
That's the goal. We need to have it ready for the show.
Yeah, and speaking of the showdown, I don't know if you guys saw my post yesterday, but there is a 4 dudes from the East Coast that have humongous, massive builds that are making the trek over. With that and the builds Bobby has coming and all the California guys, my Explorer, basically that'll be the first big show with the 15s in it. The show is going to be rowdy this year. I have a feeling it's going to be the best one yet.
Hell
So
yeah.
come to Vegas in February.
Heck yeah.
Marius, how do I find you on Instagram?
So I am Loud Fiat everywhere.
Oh, yes.
That's
okay.
Or LF Audio. Both of those. I try and separate them a little bit now. The story behind the name LF Audio was Loud Fiat, of course, but then I realized that, hey, Fiat will have a lifetime, and whatever the next build may not be a Fiat, most likely not. So I looked at LF, it made me low frequency, it made me Loud Fiat, it mean nothing, but that's sort of why I separated the two.
Or you could just buy a Ford next.
I've already had somebody that bought a Cybertruck that's like, hey, can you do my high voltage build? So I don't know. I also reached out to Tello Trucks. I don't know if you guys heard of the company. They're a new startup in California, and they're building a EV truck that's like 500 horsepower, that's as big as a Mini Cooper, but the bed itself is long like an F-150. So it's practical for. So I reached out to them, and they're ready. They're like, when we're ready to do like a big build here, we want to do a marketing build where you'll do our high voltage build in it, so we can show it off as part of like our product launch and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to that. Yes, Drew, can you pull up the Instagram link I sent you? I finally found the video there.
Questions for you there, Marius.
Yeah, so I'll find, while you guys play that, I'm going to find something that I have here. And can you turn on the sound?
I think I can get to restart.
Do you need me to pull it up, Drew?
Okay.
There's no sound, though. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it. Hold on. I'll restart it.
Okay.
Right. So very non-scientific test here. Got a question. Where's the video to show us how far line of sight the wireless volume controller will work? So I have this pretty used up prototype here. This is not the latest PCB. I'm still waiting for that from the factory, but let's see how far I could walk while still getting data on the unit. All right, I'm on 30 times zoom. Hopefully you can see the unit on the fence over there.
Good Lord.
All the way. And we're still receiving data.
Do you have an idea how far away you were? Like
the sunlight and the
300 yards?
The OLED. It's having a tough time capturing.
You're over in an outhouse. That
slam.
Oh shit! My build's still playing.
So we're getting signal data, and then we're kind of losing it. So this is so far the prototype. The distance.
According to Google Maps, we're looking at roughly 442, 43 feet line of sight, non-scientific for this particular demo. If you're wondering what the heck this is all about, this is the wireless volume controller, currently on pre-order from LF Audio. And this is essentially a wireless volume knob.
Dude, that's crazy.
It was 442.3 feet.
Yeah, non-scientific.
I think that's plenty of range.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be all right. Like you could be giving somebody a demo while you're getting a demo in another vehicle.
So
you're just tracking which like.
I already have guys that want to scare folks. They want to park in the parking lot and just scare people. I think it's gonna be fun. So going back to John's question about shunts, I'll be honest with you. A lot of these products I've been playing with and prototyping for a long time. I have way too many shunts I've been using for all kinds of testing to figure out what the best electrical sort of design at the end of the day is. So yes, I have shunts. I have created wattage meters that continuously monitor the shunts at kilohertz worth of frequency and the voltage, and can tell you how much you've put into something or drained out at something for battery monitoring purposes and whatnot. So absolutely, I played with shunts, pulse sensors, all kinds of stuff. Now, whether or not they end up in a product is the big question, right? What the right choice is for a particular product, that's really what I do my iteration and testing about. Sometimes a Hall effect sensor, is a better choice than a shunt. Sometimes a shunt is better. Not everybody wants to see, a 75 millivolt drop. They might get a heart attack, but it is what it is.
Hell yeah,
I got a
dude.
question. So does the system basically have the ability to put in like different modes? So let's say I'm controlling my build and I know what I can do to it. So I want it in like full open mode. But if maybe I want to give it to a buddy to demo for the day, or if I want whoever sits in the car to just, here's the knob, do whatever you want. Can I put like it in like demo mode or like whatever friendly mode to where everything is just limited just enough to where I know nobody will hurt it?
We can do that right now just with your DSP, Steve.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We can add a DRC 205 and we could create a different tune that just pulls everything down a little bit so that it has a super safe limit. And you just press a button on that knob and you go, okay, it's blue light or it's green light or it's fucking red light, green light. And you got, and you know what's good for your demo buddy.
But for everybody else that's not running the JL software and stuff that I am, that is going to run one of your knobs. Like, will they be able to do that, or can
that'd be a cool feature to add for sure.
Yeah.
Is it something that it can do, or is it
Absolutely. So the cool thing is, and I love this, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think of that. I should have. It's a simple feature. I mentioned I've updated the voltmeter 6 times since I launched it. This is why I built in from day one the ability to have a mesh and to do over-the-air updates via the app, because I figured there's going to be a lot more creative customers out there than I am, and they're going to give me ideas all day long. I want to call out Daniel again. He's like, hey, I installed your voltmeter upside down. Can I rotate the screen? So I think it was last night or the night before, I pushed out an update that allows you to choose orientation in case you have the meter installed sideways, right? Something I didn't think of it day one, but because I built in the right facilities from day one, I was able to accommodate that request in like a day turnaround. So ideas like this, or can I have valet mode? Can I do anything else that you come up with? As long as the hardware is built in such a way that it's all controllable by that centralized CPU and firmware, I'm able to push updates and accommodate new feature requests. So
it's awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I could totally see that being an option people would want, especially in the demo world, because we're not always there to operate the builds. Again, plus we get tired of it sometimes. So to give it to a buddy to just, here you go, or even to just let the person do it. That's here, give yourself a demo. Take as much as you want. Here you go.
Can we put a breathalyzer on it? Motherfucker, you're like, here's your knob. You blow into the thing, and they're like, oh, yep, yeah, you blew. You're drunk as fuck. It's limited pretty low, but you go ahead, man. And they're fucking turning knob, and they're not gonna break anything. That'd be good.
So how does it? Basically, the way it works is the brain. Let's say you're running a head unit. You would just run your source from the head unit into your brain, and then it talks to the knob. Just basically like a cockpot in essence, but it's wireless.
Exactly. And in fact, you're bringing up something else I've designed and I haven't showed off yet. I think there's more that we could do there. I won't get into that, but essentially think of it like a knob is nothing more than a resistor, and it adds resistance into the line. That's how you do voltage attenuation. So technically you have an input, your RCA goes in and your RCA goes out, and you can control the voltage level of that RCA. Now, something else this unit can do that no other unit I'm aware of will do is at pro-grade audio of 0.001% is my target worth of THD, it could actually give you 30 dB worth of gain. So if you have a low voltage head unit and for whatever reason you want to have more voltage output, this unit is actually capable of delivering 30 volts peak to peak on the RCA out. Ooh. It's 15 volts positive, 15 volts negative. The reason why I designed it and over-designed it with this is because I actually run a line driver for my high voltage amps all the way up to 12 volts. So for me, I could drop that line driver and just do it directly from here. So it's going to not only give you the attenuation, it will give you up to 30 dB worth of gain. So your installer, if you have a system and for whatever reason you need to up the voltage on your RCA, it can do that. Now the benefit is, depending where you place this unit, how close it is to your amp, that means you could have a lower voltage RCA going in here with lower EMI and then higher voltage coming out directly to your amp. So you could strategically place it to reduce EMI and interference and whatnot and have a better SNR. Again, it's all about, now you have some options that your installer can take into account and say, here's how I could play with these things to give you, sort of the optimum layout of how you can install everything.
You put that thing right in there behind the head unit almost, right? Like, so that we are minimizing whatever bullshit might happen between that and the head unit. Yeah.
And again, if I do ever release the wireless sort of units, you plug the wireless in here and directly from the RCA, you could stream wirelessly into the RCA of your DSP or the RCA of your amp or whatever else you have in the path there. And now you don't even have any interference from the head unit. It's all wireless. And
okay,
that's
so
where
I guess that's kind of what I was just going to ask. Like I'm running I don't have any head unit. I'm just running straight off a Bluetooth module, controller, whatever. So could somebody just connect their phone directly to that?
No, so input? This only does attenuation and gain, and it does the fast Fourier transform analysis for the signal. It does not have a DAC, a digital to analog controller that actually introduces any additional signal into the line. Okay. That would be a separate add-on.
Yeah, so I would still run the Bluetooth module, and then that would just be the RCAs into that.
Correct.
Box, yeah. Okay. Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Well, we got any more questions? Well, we're gonna do a giveaway. I know Jim's is giving away. Let me pull it up.
Giving away a little Jim.
I don't know if you guys have seen his new bars or his little. How's this video? Right over here. They are like his new distro blocks that are color coded. They're colors. They
look like pencil sharpeners.
They're like single 4-in and then or single 1/0 in and like 4 outs and.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Very nice.
So he's gonna give away a pair of those. Any size, I believe. Yeah. And I think he's got like zip ties that are the same color somehow. I don't know how he managed to do that.
3D printed zip ties.
So 2 blocks.
Drew's all.
Here, I'm just going to copy and paste this. It'll be a lot easier. I already have my question. I was paying attention. I don't know if you guys were.
I didn't know.
All right. So this is what you get from Jim. It's for 2 blocks. Your choice of 4 gauge to 8 gauge. 4 gauge to 8 gauge. Okay, I see. It's a 4 gauge to 4 8 gauges, or a 4 gauge to 8 gauges, or 4 gauge to 4 whatever. It's all that. You guys
yes.
I'm confused now. It's blocks, colors. So yes. You guys got any more questions popping in your domes right now? Drew, you look like you're thinking hard.
Working on a order thing, trying to fix it.
Oh. I've been answering some questions via text. First question was, 30 dB again, like it's negative 95.5 dB of attenuation up to 31.5 dB of gain. And I noticed that John said boats have a 1 volt out, so that would be useful. And this is exactly why I built it this way, because I recognize there are use cases where we have, limited voltage to work with. When is the concentric version coming out? I'll be honest, every single one, of my devices and iterations really will be based on how well the product does and how well it deserves, a second version or third version or enhancements. If I find that nobody wants to buy these, it's not worth it. It's just the market isn't there. It won't make sense to promise a second. However, if people eat these up and they're like, yeah, I get great feedback, they're hitting the mark on performance and they want to see more, I'll do more. So that's kind of my thought process here. It's really about, am I building the right products that people want? Is it resonating with them?
Nice.
Yeah.
Man.
Very cool.
Cool. So I'm going to ask my question right now for the giveaway.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys are paying attention. I wish it was a little further away since we learned this. But anyways, how many feet does that knob work at? That distance test. If you guys are paying attention, what was that number? So first one to get it. Hopefully we're paying attention.
Do I count? Can I play?
You can take it out of your dealer. And it's got to be the exact number. That's why I asked. Because I knew people were kind of paying attention. Nope, you guys are close, but nope. Remember, there's a decimal point. It was something, point something.
I am shocked at how close all of these are.
Ooh, so close. Unless.
Well, I would have been wrong, but I would have been very close.
I'm going to message you real quick, Marius, just to make sure I have the correct number. Because somebody may have said.
Went off the number on the screen of the little breakdown thing, right? When he did the little. I was looking at a piece of information. I should have studied it when he showed the little line of the little map with the line and that data. That would have been the most appropriate. Keep an eye on the screen, Steve, because if you have the correct,
make sure I have the
guys have had enough time to go and look.
All right, let me go. Let me zoom up a little bit here.
A few guys got it.
Oh, who was first? Let me see here. Oh, right here. This is the first one I found. Brian Piercy, 442.3. Is there anybody before that?
I think Brian wins the distro blocks and everything because I don't think Brian's won anything before.
You just want to do the one question?
I mean, it could be. We could do more. I have a question that is actually pretty easy, and they'll get it, but it'll be like a race to drop the information. But I have a question,
Yeah. I mean, I think we could do this, guys. We can figure out 4 questions. Or maybe.
I got a question. So we've got.
All right, so how many watts of power is Marius running in his loud Fiat?
Can I don't think we covered this, what it's capable of versus what we've claimed.
Well,
right.
I don't think we talked about what it clamps. Did we?
We talked about what the rated power is.
Yeah.
We talked about rated power. Yeah.
Well, I guess you're going to have to pick who gets it right, Marius, because I don't even know the answer. So we have to pay attention.
Be the first one that hits that.
There we go.
Yeah, pretty much. I know somebody up there was really close, I believe.
A bunch. There's still people answering the distance one.
Well, I think that's right.
So I want to show you guys this. I think, what we said on the show is pretty dead on. I'll show you guys if I could present here. Let me see.
Real quick, Marius, that
Jim, answer. It's your giveaway, donkey.
What?
I told Jim
Jim's answering.
It's a giveaway for his own blocks. He's like, okay, I want him.
Like, Jim, you don't count. You're a sponsor. We got to get it.
They're so nice. He wants to win them.
Mary, is this the correct answer of what those amps say on them? They're 190 Ks, right?
That is what we said during the show, but I do want to share my screen right now so I could show everybody the manual.
Before the giveaway, whoever you are, Facebook user, Put it in the comments or something, your name, so I can put it down
Yeah.
here. Like, I don't know who you are.
So
Who are you?
Who are you? All right, so this is from the Stetson. Okay.
this is the official data sheet on these guys. So each battery is 12.6 volts, right? So this is actually lower than the voltage I run it at. The amp will go up to 440 volts. Most folks do not run them above 220. I know some that do 320. As far as I know, 400 is usually more than normal. So at 30 batteries, so 30 times, I should do the math really quick here. At 378 volts, which is a little bit lower than what I run it at 0.33 ohms, it's rated at 195,000 watts. So we said
running it at 2 ohms, right? You said?
I'm running it at 2 ohms, which means that I am limiting it severely because those voice coils will not take it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know any voice coils, even on these Z's that I love to play with testing here, that will take that. I mean, I run 100 watts through these, and it's already starting to get hot. So I can't do demos for too long, even in the build. At the power levels, we've clamped right around, I'd say, about 40,000 watts max, so about 10,000 a piece for short bursts. Longer runs, I've done a little bit under that for about a minute, but this is what they're capable of, and I have them at 2 ohms and limited because it's just too much power. I can't use it.
Yeah, I mean that setup's really meant for people who have a ton of subs, or I mean, really a ton of subs. That can
Why did you put 2 of them?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. People that know me, they know I'm trying to fit 4. So I can say I have a megawatt worth of potential. Just
well, okay. All right. Well, now I completely understand because I'm sending with the megawatt.
You could have just said for the flex. Got it. Got it.
4 million watts.
Oh my god, that's hysterical. It's like I got fucking billion watts, bitch. What?
Oh
my god.
Now, there are, if you guys are interested in high voltage, right? I run a high voltage group on Facebook. It's not very active because, like we said at the beginning of the show,
because you're the only one that does it.
It's not in the US yet. However,
there was a guy at Slam, right?
Is that Mr. Escalade?
I think so.
He runs high voltage. I've worked with him closely. He is one of the very few folks within the US.
Yeah.
He's also a dealer of mine. I did make 440 volt versions of the voltmeters. Problem is, there really is no market in the US for them. There really isn't. So one thing you'll find if you're interested in high voltage, there's a lot of...
What's that group? High voltage. There you
go. I'll find it and I'll share it with you.
High voltage.
So if you go on Instagram, you'll find a lot of high voltage groups that literally have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And this is what these builds do. They're built for these huge stunt walls where you could actually use the power. This is what the high voltage amps are for. So I took something meant for this and I'm running a single, 2 voice coils. You can't use it. It's too much.
Yeah, just like you were saying before, they're meant like, those big semis that we see down south. I mean, I'd love for one of those to eventually make its way up here just because I want to experience it. I mean, you see the videos where there's 200-300 people in the crowd and they're doing hair tricks from 100 feet away. It's just insane.
Absolutely.
I'm not finding this.
Yeah. Let's see. I got 4, 8, 12, and 8 and 8. I always forget how many. 28. Yeah, I got 37 coils in my build. I might be able to use one of those.
No.
No. No. I don't have enough room for a battery, to be honest.
So here's one of the profiles I'm sharing my screen here again. These amplifiers and these setups are incredibly popular. We are at least a decade and a half behind when it comes to this stuff. It's out there. It's been out there. You will see there's nothing but these builds, hundreds of them.
Man, look at some of those are wild. That one closer to the top was like a tiny ass car and had
Oh.
a gazillion speakers on top of it.
So there's a Fiat like mine that's exactly like that with the speakers on top. These guys, when we
up there, like the third or fourth picture, it's on the left side.
so
Keep going up. It's right there, that one.
this is a minivan.
Okay, it's just from further away, but Jesus.
Yeah. So when these guys do their DB, they do 155 at like 50 feet away. That's how they start measuring their decibels. Not inside the car, but outside. They put microphones, and I have friends there. That's where I get my amplifiers from, and this is what they do. Like they're trying to be loud from like miles away. This is something. It's insane. But yeah, there's. I mean, it's a whole other world that hasn't made its way here. It has. I know folks. Ralphie in the East Coast. I think he's in Florida now. He runs Ralphie Sounds and a few others like that are doing this. They have vans with these types of setups with the 21-inch Neo drivers. These are super popular. I think it's BNC, is it?
Yeah, BNCs.
Yeah. So
we've had them on the show too.
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
So all these builds you'll see, they're all like BNC, and they're all just insane. It's a whole other world.
They're starting to get a little more popular here. I mean, we see them at Slam. We'll see them occasionally at certain shows, but obviously nothing like it is in South America yet.
Yeah,
that's wild. And what are they? Are they all just running like lead acid deep cycle batteries and stuff? Or are they in the lithium game?
Yep. No. As far as I'm aware, it's a lot of those heavy lead acid batteries because of the price. And that's why, when some folks started to hear about high voltage, right? One of the questions that I was asked a lot was, why is this amplifier only $600 or $500 back, a few years ago when I got into this? They're like, there's no way this thing can do any power. This is a Chinese special, like get out of here. So unfortunately, I fell for that trap, and I ended up spending a lot of my time on social media, on TikTok, making videos like the one you saw, being upset that folks didn't have an understanding of what this is, that this is the output power section of an amp. It has no power supply section, and the cost is low because you literally have a quarter of the parts you would in a normal 12-volt amplifier. And the reason they do this is ultimately, when you have a huge build like this, instead of needing lithium or needing 20 amplifiers that need to step up 12 volts to high voltage to the coils, you could just run these batteries directly to these high voltage amps, which is essentially the output section, and you're saving the money on everything in between, and you get better efficiency. You're talking about at least 92% efficiency here because you don't have that voltage rail that you need to step up and have to worry about within the amplifier. So less heat, better efficiency, and more cost. So that being said, it's all about cost, in South America, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of them run the deep cycle batteries and they run high voltage amps. At the end of the day, you actually come out a winner if this is your build and this is what you care about in terms of having something that's large.
Yep. And have you done much testing with a lot of the Brazilian amps? Like I hear all the time about how terrible they are with distortion. Like as far as like which one should people stay away from? If anybody's going to get into any of the Brazilian stuff, like you've probably had as much experience as anybody with those amps.
I've run 12-volt Brazilian, high voltage Brazilian. I've blown both of each. I've blown the Sound Digital HVs. I've gone through them. I want to limit what I say about other brands. There's a reason why I'm working on my own. I think there's
fair enough
room for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from friends that are with big companies that have tested these amps and have just talked about how they're almost just welders. Like they have so much distortion.
Yeah. And that's a joke. It's a 600 volt IGBT. The first thing that people that knew what they're talking about when they see my videos, you're like, oh, that's exactly what they use in welders. Like, it's basically a welder that's frequency modulated. Yeah.
Well, like these the cheaper amps, not just Brazil, but cheaper amps in general, but specifically some of the ones out of Brazil, they will actually, the amplifier will mute itself below a certain power level, so you don't hear how just absolutely god awful the noise floor is. Like it's below like 5 watts or like some just random output voltage, the amp will just mute itself completely, just no output, just to avoid hearing that noise.
So
it sounds like a welder that's turned on.
I had I have a video on my social media where the son of the founder of Stetson, he was actually out here and he took some time to stop by and listen to the build, see his amps running in my car and everything. So I had a conversation with him where I shared some of my thoughts on some of the performance characteristics and so on. But I want to say, that was pretty cool that he took the time out of his day to, come and meet me and talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got a question for the giveaway. What voltage is he running in that car? There's a picture posted of a voltmeter. What is that voltage?
No.
Damn, John's fast with it.
Right away.
Yep, John got it fast.
Okay, so now what? Who wins?
So we got 3 people. So maybe we have one final question, and basically it's between these 3
Only
people.
those 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody else answer other than those 3.
And the
Jim,
3 people are
don't answer.
Brian Pierce, I believe his last name was Pierce. Jerry Ain't Loud, or Facebook user, and John King.
Yep.
So
okay. And
Marius,
what
you have a question?
Yeah, what do you got?
You'll be the tiebreaker.
Oh my God. I don't know if it's fair.
Anything about something we talked about today?
No, it doesn't have to be fair.
What speaker did I use on my Christmas shirt? Boom, bitches.
So what am I supposed to do right now?
Any question? Like, just ask a question about anything that we discussed really through this episode. So the people who are paying attention, something somewhat technical, like we've kind of been asking, but maybe make it a little bit harder so that people. It's
or it could be like super random as shit. Like if you mentioned what the name of your pet was, or like or how long you've been doing car audio, or like what's the loudest number you ever did in your build, or
anything we've talked about.
For folks that have been with us, if they're still with us in the show, maybe you deserve this one.
Yep.
What is the brand of subwoofers I ran that I mentioned that I ended up blowing 3 of? What was that brand?
Who had the biggest turd lately? Me, buddy.
Track the size of your turds day in and day out, Stuart?
John got it.
Okay.
I have W7s yet.
All right,
yeah,
John.
look at him. Yep.
John, you win.
All right, John, you're the winner. You get the 2 your choice of those new bars or new distribution blocks that Jim's making. So you can message me or message Jim, and we'll get those out to you. Thanks for watching.
And now I'm gonna plug my own stuff. Christmas shirts.
Sick.
Nice. What did you use? Sundown. Duh.
Nightshade version 3, baby. Look how
Nice.
cute he is.
Look at that big
Max
beard.
approved, bud.
Oh, you got puppy ones? Hell yeah.
But yeah, they're for sale. I posted a link. Y'all go buy them.
Sick. And we got the new shirts, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I need
glossy?
some of those. Should I go and order one online, or are you gonna just send me one? That's right.
There we go. Which way? This way. See, I got Bobby saying on there and shit.
Yeah.
So full back. Put the full back. See that?
Oh.
Show me your booty.
Oh, you gotta go lower. Lower.
Squat. Do a squat. Oh shit. Twerk it. There you go.
Now you need to twerk. Give us the twerk.
See, yeah, those are on car audio.
If he would have really been shaking his dumper, I would have been dead. That would have been hella funny. Okay.
That's a good question. Drew, are you coming to the show now?
Yeah.
I do believe so.
Are you possibly bringing the wagon? Is that what was going on in the chat? I was working, so I was briefly looking at it.
That's what I was asking if Kicker wanted it over there.
Wanted a wagon out there?
What do we got here?
This is what Jim just sent me.
That's pretty cool looking.
Oh, those are for the push terminals. So you don't have to stuff 2 wires in the one terminal anymore.
Yep. But no, I asked if they want it there. If they want it there, we can. I'm sure we figure something out to get it there.
Cool.
Very cool. Right on. We Gate the Audio will have a relatively small booth and a slew of vehicles on display there. And I don't know if Kicker's going to have, but Kicker going to have an actual booth. Sky High will likely have a booth.
Yeah, Kicker is not going to have a booth, but they are the title sponsor. Obviously, they're my main sponsor, so I would love to have them to always be the title sponsor. Yep. As long as them and I work together, so we're going to always try to work together. And then also, I guess I can announce now because we were kind of waiting on what Kicker wanted to do, but Wolfram is going to be the comp lane sponsor. So for all you Wolfram fans, they are sponsoring the lanes, just like Sundown did last year. So we'll have cool trophies that are going to resemble some sort of. I'm thinking about doing the Wolfram logo, just wolf heads, and then putting my logo inside of it.
I'm gonna walk out to the shop real quick. I'll be back in a second.
Yep. So yeah, Wolfram comp lane sponsor, Kicker title, and I talked to John yesterday. Sky High is going to have a booth as well as Sound Cubed and Limitless. He's bringing the dually, and they're going to bring the new Murder Tahoe with all the Sound Cube stuff in it. So there's going to be some. I mean, to get best demo this year is going to be a battle. There's some.
Ben should have his hearse.
The hearse is going to be there.
Probably. I mean, I'm not making any promises, but I'd be really surprised if he didn't want it to be there. Ben loves the showdown, and he should have it by then. So
and then like Chris, I mean, those guys are all coming hard every year. Between him and you know all those guys, I'm doing an award this year. I guess I might as well talk about that now too. So Francisco was the first winner of our Demo Horror Award, 2019, I believe it was. Maybe the 2020. It could have been the 2020 show. So you know, given that Francisco was a big part of our community on the West Coast with as an amazing demo builds, I'm going to do an award that I'm sponsoring that is it's just going to be the Santa Ana wins. It's that big logo. I'm going to have Barnaby make something cool, and it'll probably be just somebody I choose. I haven't decided exactly what you're going to have to do to win it, but most likely something that like embraces how Francisco was, just nasty demos and fun loving, and I want to pay honor to him being our first Demo Horror Award winner. That's going to be one specialty award people could
win. The reason why I have the BDC4s is because of him, man. And then when they arrived, when I finally got him after 9 months of waiting, and he wasn't around. That was hard, but every time I play my build, I remember him. He actually is the one that got me back into audio hardcore. I was looking around for somebody to help me SPL it. He welcomed me, he's like, I have a meter, let's do it. And, he got me back into it really hard. So I appreciate you, bringing him up and doing that with the award. That's so cool.
Oh yeah. It's an honor. It sucks. It's life, I guess, but it fucking sucks. What do you got there, Drew?
So he had mentioned he was going to run the Neo Pro 12s. Neo Pro 12.
Oh, dude, I'm not jealous at all.
God, look how huge. It's so shallow, man.
Dude, it's
a pancake.
I don't know if you guys have seen the build. I cut my doors up for them. I'm so excited.
So I can't keep this one. This is the prototype. Jacob promised this to somebody else, but my 4, I got sent pictures Monday, I guess they're done now. They're on the way.
Nice.
Yep, we're going to run 2 per door, kind of same as him, except for no 8s or anything.
And the one that are in the Slam Halen, Bobby, what are those? Those are just big 12s, right? Or are those 10s?
Those are 10s in the front, 8s in the back. Those are the Vex. They're fucking monsters. They're obnoxiously large.
Yeah, I can't believe how shallow that thing is.
It's only about a half-inch thicker than the Neo Pro version 4, 6.5 up there.
That's crazy. We're gonna start seeing a lot of those in builds.
Oh, absolutely. And you're gonna start seeing a lot of the Neo Pro coax speakers too. The built-in tweeter.
Look at all your filament jelly.
Oh, yeah.
You have to just like fly you out, Drew, and like give you some money, but like build this room into a 3D printing room. get me like on the right track, so I don't have to fucking have a bunch of mistakes.
Yay for electrical measurements. See, look, I could have a nice little screen right here. LF audio, a little 5-inch screen right here.
Yeah.
Do you have a meter already, Drew, or you have a screen or something you were saying? Nice.
Very cool.
I mean, it powers up so quickly. Let me see if I can get this thing hooked up real quick.
So I'm actually releasing a firmware update that will allow you to set the refresh rate to maximum. Folks have been asking, how is it so accurate? It actually does 330 samples a second, and what you see is actually an average value. So in new ludicrous mode, you'll actually be able to see all those samples just whiz by a maximum speed.
Make it plaid mode.
Yep.
So you can't even read it. It's just going by so fast.
Yeah, people are asking, hey, like, why does it work the way it does? I'm like, here you go. Like, if you really want to see it in full speed, you can.
Like, okay, yeah, ludicrous mode makes sense because that's what the plaid in its fastest mode is, right? Called the ludicrous mode.
No, ludicrous was the fastest prior to plaid. Now plaid is the fastest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen the movie? What is wrong with you, Steve? How dare you?
I thought the plaid. Okay, but I didn't know they had the plaid.
They've gone plaid.
Yeah, plaid is the model, and it's also the fast mode.
Yeah. Okay.
So Tony's asking here about going from a side fire to an up firing port in a crew cab. I don't expect any kind of gain. The most efficient thing is probably a side loading port, but usually the shittiest sounding thing is a side loading port. So if you're ready to have some door panel rattle and some weird muddy resonance, which I mean, like my 8 boxes have 2 side loading ports. I have 2 side loading ports. That helps a little bit. It's not focused all on one side, and the box is a little bit narrower to help alleviate that. But we usually get some door panel rattle. We work our asses off to alleviate it on the builds we do in house. But typically, the most output that I've found, the most efficient gain is actually letting that port wrap off the door. My favorite is a center loading port, but that's not as efficient, but it sounds the best to me as long as you don't make a shitty port that makes port noise. So that's my.
And if anybody would know, it's you.
Because I have definitely built some boxes that made fucking port noise along years ago. Like I built a whole batch of them at one point. I built 6 of them and put one in my truck, and I was like, oh my god. I worked my ass off and modified 2 of them to have a completely different port assembly and work correctly. And then I set the other 4 like aside to modify them later. And then after a little while, we just cut them up and threw them in the dumpster because they were unsellable.
Beautiful.
Sweet amp, bro.
I'm gonna have to go soon. I gotta put my kids to bed. But
I was just about 10 o'clock. Brandy wants to watch some old TV with me, so.
Yeah, we're at a cut point, 2 hours, so this is perfect.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, Marius, thank you so much, dude, for joining us.
For real.
You know, we all learned a lot.
What's the link for the Quietly Loud shirts, Steve? Stewart here that measures his turds was asking.
Let me pull it up real quick here.
So over the weekend, those didn't see, I acquired a 3rd printer.
Nice. We got our second one set up. We've been printing stuff. It's been fun. There is the shirt. You guys go jump on there. Buy those shirts. They're dope. Steve, send me one of the shirts.
Yeah, there's we got some stickers. We got 3 different shirts. One that's just the big front, and one that's the one I'm wearing, which is the left chest and the back. And then this one is also left chest and back, but it doesn't have the fixture engine noise. Just straight our logo. So yeah, awesome. All right, guys, you all have a good night. Marius, thanks again. And
Marius, thank you so much.
Can't wait to meet you in person at the showdown, which is only 2.5 months away. So hopefully everybody gets their shit together. We'll see everybody there.
I won't have mine together. Don't you worry, buddy.
Well, just get there.
Perpetual building.
I'm gonna charge you double for your sponsorship this year, Drew, because you didn't pay me last year.
You never paid me.
Damn.
I remember you leaving. I remember you and you being like, and Steve's like, "You seen Drew?" And I'm like, "I think he's gone." And he's like, "Motherfucker didn't pay me."
I was gone too. Hey, can you ship out those things tomorrow by chance?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
What things?
Yeah, I'm all. Who the fuck are you even talking
Sorry.
I don't
Yeah,
understand. I
I
gotta find them. Tomorrow, let me find them first, and then once I find them,
I had to go pick up one of these today from the shop that bought Bobby's box.
send me your address again, Drew, just so it's easier to get to. All right, boys.
Hell
Everybody
yeah.
have a nice night.
It's
Bobby,
what?
do your honors.
I gotta say,
No,
fucking
say
go
your-
fix your engine noise, motherfuckers, and be nice to people. Do that shit.
Later.
Later,
guys.
kid. Thanks,
Having me
Mary.
on.